All right, everyone, we are live. Let's make sure that's actually the case. Cross-platform. Got the co-host here, of course, as you can see. Might get to hear her go, make your beautiful meow. Make your pretty kitty meow. There we go. Okay. Now people will be placated. Let's make sure we're actually live on Rumble before we launch into things. Yeah, we're live on Rumble. Brrr. She never learned how to meow in the normal way, I would point out. We will be starting off talking about a little bit of Midterm Bantz, but first and foremost, on Pixel Planet, we've accidentally unleashed an ancient chaos god or something like that, because every time we invade new territory in the real world, wars seem to be beginning. Like we invaded Azerbaijan the other day on behalf of Armenia, who they were bullying, and now there's actually a border conflict there. So I'm thinking that we may be involved with some synchronicity and memetics here. So let's experiment further. Link in the description. It's also pinned at the top of chat if you're watching on YouTube. And I'll actually get that on so that I can put that in on Rumble. Here, just a sec, everyone on Rumble. I'm giving you a link. Take it. Do it. This takes you roughly to the middle of what used to be Turkey. Now it's been completely overrun. We now control about 80% of Turkey on Pixel Planet. And the Armenians have staked a claim, which we do respect. They have the red, blue, and yellow flag. You can see over there to the east of where you'll spawn if you take that link. We respect their territorial claim over a fairly large swatch of what used to be eastern Turkey. And the Georgians have invaded as well, so we support them also. And we're now going south. We're going to, after we clear out the rest of that red blobbing there, we're going to turn south and we're going to restore, I guess, the entire Eastern Roman Empire and invade Syria and Lebanon, Israel, Jordan. We might as well, because the Turks had done it already previously. They were trying to reestablish the Ottoman Empire. We will give them no quarter. I see in chat, they're complaining about the situation and demanding peace and trying to get the Ukrainians involved for some reason or another. As well as the other day, not only were they botting, they were actually using Greek colors and botting Italy and I think Norway or Finland. And then they were botting, who was it? They attacked the Georgians. They attacked a bunch of people, trying to get them drawn into the war against Greece. I guess that the hope is that people are not aware of the situation whereby most of the people that are screwing with the Ottoman Empire are not actually Greek. We're clankers, and we don't represent a state entity. We've got our own territory in sub-Saharan Africa. We're wise African people, and we are reluctant to get involved in European and Balkan affairs in general. But we saw bullying going on, so we had to get involved. Drennan, he who controls the memes controls the universe. Elon Musk. Sketch therapy, looking forward to any wind pills you may have found. There'll be plenty to talk about today. Don't worry. So yeah, take that link, get on Pixel Planet, and help out because there's still a blob of red in the far east of their country. I guess we could liberate Kurdistan, but I don't know. They don't seem to have much of a presence, and they don't seem to be attempting to actually do anything. So I'm not sure that it's particularly fruitful to do so. But we were not attacking the Armenians and Georgians. While we're not officially allies, I have declared support for both of their incursions into Turkey. It helps clean things out. We've got more and more people involved. I guess the Salty Army has gotten involved to an extent as well. There's a salty cracker meme actually there in the middle of Turkey as well. So now we drive south after we clear out that red, which we can probably do literally in an afternoon. It'd take a couple of hours with a concerted effort. We will be taking over Syria, Lebanon, Israel, and Jordan because apparently we're operating memetically now. We're charging up ancient chaos energy, and we're going to start regional conflicts in these areas. As long as there are more than two parties involved, we seem to have a pretty good shot at doing so. So we'll see what we can do now. It's going to be great. Anyway, let's talk about Midterm Bantz really quickly first and foremost. Getting off the Pixel Planet thing. Don't worry, I'll return to that topic a few times throughout the stream as I watch slowly as the Armenians grind down their enemies, which is pretty funny. Retribution for being invaded by the Turks and the Azeri people before. Here's the thing with regards to midterms. There's new polling out. Biden is still roughly around his old polling floor and ceiling. I don't think that he goes beyond that. I think that right now what you see is a restoration of people that were basically leftoids. They're inclined to vote for the Democrats anyway in an election, but Biden hadn't given them anything. And now they sent Win because they think that they're going to get a big student loan handout, which may or may not even pan out. And so they're climbing back on board the Biden short bus. It'll be funny to see what happens with that. But I'd like to remind people, those individuals were never going to vote Republican. At a maximum, they would stay home instead of voting at all, and most of them wouldn't. So it doesn't really change, in my opinion, the metrics of the midterms. We can see in the generic ballot, the Republicans have managed to roughly equate to a 50-50 sum game there. But typically, midterm polling underestimates the Republicans. That's been the case for election after election for some time. So I have no reason to believe that won't be the case here, in which case Herschel Walker would probably win. That knocks off a Dem incumbent in the Senate. Certainly means that Stacey Abrams is denied a slot. We'll be talking about that separately with regards to the Georgia gubernatorial election. She's trying again. I don't think she's going to make it, dude. I think there hasn't been a single poll that shows her uphill. Beto O'Rourke might do better than Stacey Abrams. Just to be clear about her competition and what she's up against. Hell, Chris could do better against DeSantis. In the gubernatorial slot, now, roughly 2 months out from the midterms, I would say that it's almost certain that the Republicans carry the gubernatorial races handily. So that's a big thing, which is why you're not hearing as much about it anymore. They're not talking about Beto O'Rourke anymore as much. I wonder why. They want to distract you from Stacey Abrams inevitably at this point losing against Kemp. They don't want to give any importance to it because they don't expect to win. Instead, they're focused on the Senate seats. They expect Fetterman to win. I think that might end up in question, to tell the truth. They expect Katie Hobbs to win. As we'll see, there's a scandal involving her that people more need to know about. I didn't know about it until the other day. Somebody brought it up in chat, and it's fairly big. I mean, if you're running as a Democrat, it's fairly big anyway. They expect to win in Nevada. Again, it's about 50-50. So you've got all of these very, very close Senate races, and the House is not going to be close. To be clear, there the Republicans will trounce the Democrats. I expect them to pick up 30 seats or so and have a considerable majority. So a little bit of midterm Bantz there. We do still have 2 months to go. We'll be looking for final rounds of polling in some of these vulnerable races. About the most vulnerable potential Dem pickup is against Rubio, with Val Demings, actually. And considering who Rubio is, little Marco, it's Rubio. You remember all of that Marco Roboto moment. Nobody gives a shit. Now, we don't care if Rubio loses his job. Now, to tell the truth, I don't give a shit. I'm sorry, but I can't respect the dude. He needs lifts in his shoes in order to appear like an average adult. And he has some weird beliefs. Wasn't he helping Ted Cruz to hand out like toys and shit to illegals at one point? I think he was involved with that. I know Ted Cruz was. Another blot on his particular character. I feel so sorry for these people. I don't care that they broke the law to get here. Conservative. Aaron C., Azerbaijan situation. Yes, also in news, Azerbaijan appears to be firing rockets across the Armenian border at the moment. This is in real life. This is less than 24 hours after we initiated an invasion there on Pixel Planet. Roughly shadowing what happened with Greece and Turkey, where a couple of days after we started that, all of a sudden the Greeks started warning the rest of NATO, hey, we think that Turkey might have plans to attack us or something, so we'll have to be wary. This could be a problem. TJ Mars, one of Abrams' biggest flops is being anti-Second Amendment in Georgia. Well, the other flop is that her campaign is basically vote for me because I happen to be a female and not white. It's an id poll campaign. It's not based on any real larger platform. She doesn't want to address the elephant in the room that is the economy, or her reflection, depending on whether she's looking in a mirror. Armani V, do you think the proposed Senate late-term abortion ban is going to screw the midterms for Republicans? Bad move, in my opinion. I have an opposite opinion. I think that it's to get the Democrats on record as supporting third trimester abortions. Most of the country opposes that. If they were to try to ban abortion outright or fiddle around in that sense, it'd be really bad for the Republicans. What they're trying to do is return the conversation, which has gone against the GOP, as predicted to some extent, on abortion, back to the Democrats and give them the hot potato. Then they need to explain to swing voters why they voted against a ban on a person being able to abort at 8 months. And it's not going to be pretty for them. We'll see whether the Republican messaging thereafter, though, is able to keep up with a legacy media that will pound them relentlessly and insinuate that it's a precursor to an all-out abortion ban on the federal level. Not a banned account. All this buildup. Will World War III happen sooner or later? Well, much as I'd like to play Fallout real life, I don't think that it's going to happen anytime soon. Uranium Rabbit. Hi, Stick. Sometimes I wonder if the leftist movement is a cult related to older gods like Dionysus. He was into gender swapping, ecstasy, and masks. Here's some money. No, I think that they're based entirely in communistic secularism. I don't think that they have the intelligence to understand the ancient mysteries. Tree Hexenhammer. Found one of my missing sticks. Sorry, you fell off. Trent Falconwrath. Not clanking today. More like soft tapping. I'm having a cup of ramen for lunch break. Here's something for the diaper fund. Oh, don't eat ramen. Come on. That'll give you a bit, probably stomach cancer or something like that. Just get a can of lentil soup. Trust me, it's more hearty and it's far better for you. Brian Levy, I built a robot to pick up poo vid on my page. Can my robot be nominated for mayor of San Francisco? Well, the San Franciscos are not going to vote for a mayor who will actually do a good job. So clearly you would lose. Unfortunately, your robot is therefore ineligible. Take it to another poop overrun city that has a little bit more common sense. Anyway, we'll get to the first story here. And this is a dated story, but it's something that's new to me. I never heard about it, which probably is due to the legacy media not covering these things. I'm truly sorry. Katie Hobbs issues new apology in Talonya Adams firing. Yes, indeed. A Democratic Senate aide back in 2015, black individual, was fired by Katie Hobbs, who's running against Carrie Lake currently in Arizona for the gubernatorial slot. And she has unequivocally apologized over and over for this. There was discrimination involved with the firing. It was retaliatory in nature. And she won. And I think got a bunch of money probably for that in a civil case. This is unfortunate, though, for Katie Hobbs. If you had a situation where Carrie Lake, the Republican, the MAGA Republican in the race, were running and she had one of these scandals, a racial discrimination scandal in the past, it would be on every ad that Katie Hobbs ran. It would be on CNN. It would be on Fox, too, trust me, et cetera, et cetera. The fact is, though, that because Katie Hobbs is the racist, she gets a pass. What needs to be done, therefore, is that more people need to know about her deep-seated bigotry against black people, which is what it is. I went to UVM. I've seen the horse shit myself. I've seen how people of a left-wing and especially liberal in general ideology really are bigots. Meanwhile, I've met fellow libertarians. Most of them aren't white. Like I remember the lab science coordinator, a master's student at the time, for general chemistry from my freshman year of college. He was from India, actually, and an immigrant. And he ran for the Libertarian Party in Burlington only a few years ago. I think he won, by the way. I had a roommate in college, black, son of I believe, a Ghanaian immigrant, actually, libertarian. Gave me a Ron Paul calendar at one point. Great dude. Libertarians that I meet or people that are conservative are actually more diverse and actually less bigoted. Like they'll say things in clear jest that would appear bigoted. And if you put them online, you get banned for them. But the liberals and leftoids that I've met are genuine bigots, as in they would never say these things in public, never to somebody's face. In public, it's, I love diversity, I love wokeness. In private, though, holy shit, get them loaded and see what they say. Get them a round of drinks sometime. Take a liberal to the bar. Take your liberal buddy to the bar and give them a few shots of whiskey and see what comes out of their mouth when you meander into political topics. That's my challenge for you. Actual bigots. People, and they're violent too, in some cases. They express violent ideologies. That's why they have Che Guevara t-shirts half the time. They probably would love a racial purge, half these people. Don Hughes. Sticks, what are the chances the Supreme Court throws out the NFA, National Firearms Act, in the coming session? Full autos and suppressors for all. I don't think we'll get that anytime soon, but it could be challenged in court under Bruin. I think we're more likely to get a recension of mag restrictions and bans on like certain attachments for weapons and things like that. Safe storage laws, which are horseshit. We're more likely to get that, but hell, it's definitely a huge step in the right direction. Mike Rendell, clanks away. Keep up the good work, Sticks. Thank you very much. I see a spoon emoji. I don't have a spoon at the moment. Well, I do have behind me, but right now it's energy drink time. Yeah, Che Guevara was the racist. Like, you know, literal die hard. It seems like all communists have some racial component to them. They don't seem to like people who don't look like them. If the person is wearing all red, then they'll give them a pass temporarily. They'll be the last one to get sent to the gulag because they're useful idiots. Sandwich, living in Burlington is what opened my eyes to the idiocy of leftism. Yeah, they took out one of those big murals that they had to put up a BLM bullshit. Actually, that was last year, I think. And people were angry at that, and then they called them all racists. We got 3,000 people watching live right now, by the way. Next story, why Stacey Abrams can't make the sale in Georgia. Georgians don't want grievance politics. They want real solutions for real problems. This is the problem. And I've identified this for months, and it's true. You don't need to be right-wing. You don't need to be a fucking Republican to understand why she's losing against Kemp. Her entire campaign is one of entitlement. Her entire campaign is, I am black and female, ergo, if you're not voting for me, you're a MAGA fascist. And it dovetails in nicely with the Biden administration's messaging on MAGA in general. But there is no actual platform there. People who are elected to office, mostly the job is doing paperwork and giving speeches and shit. It's not attempting to go to the third world style community and hug people and sing Kumbaya and be woke and diverse. You can't govern that way. That's the way that it works, not just in DC where she's trying and will fail to go, but in any state house, or rather gubernatorial summit, the state house as well as DC. My apologies. The problem is that she's never fleshed out a platform. And we see this with more than Stacey Abrams. Katie Hobbs has the same problem. John Fetterman has the same problem. Other than rambling about Roe v. Wade and gun safety, there really is no platform there other than Orange Man Bad. MAGA is extreme, so you should vote for me. Abrams has overlapped the usual 90s and 2000s style id poll onto that by playing up to people based on her race and her gender, because she is a racist and a sexist. And she is. She's a bloated psychopath. And she's going to lose. And she'll lose by a much larger margin than she did the last time around. And it'll be very, very funny. And people will declare it the end of the world and talk about how Georgians... You watch. Here's a prediction when she loses. Georgia has been upheld for a few election cycles because it's become slightly more blue over time. As a model state, they're getting out of the dark ages of conservatism and embracing a woke and diverse future. The second that she loses, she and other Democrats will throw a pity me party. And they'll say, oh, those fucking suspender-wearing, toothless goddamn Georgia rubes are the problem here. They're all these Confederate flag wavers. They rejected her. And it was only because of the fact that she was black and female. It had nothing to do with her lack of an actual platform. It had nothing to do with poor messaging. And it had nothing to do with her effectively zero charisma style of campaigning. The fact that she looks like she'd be more in place on an MSNBC slot aside from Joy Reid, as opposed to actually serving in the state house. That will be completely ignored, and they will focus solely on that. But the fact is, there is not one poll in the entirety of this race that showed Stacey Abrams ahead. It's impossible, in my opinion, for her to possibly win at this point, which is good. Ed Roden, how about 50 Navy SEALs governing the states? Yeah, no thanks. M, what's funny is the leftoids wearing Che shirts are the same people he'd throw into labor camps. Yeah, or Mao, or any of these other morons throughout time. They all think that they would be a party member, maybe just a lowly party member. They have their nice office in some nondescript middle class sort of Central European town or something. And they've got their illegally imported cigars under their desk and their, Russian vodka. And so they're living the life. They get to go and crack some skulls occasionally, and then they do paperwork. They think that it'll be like they're a member of the Bolshevik Party or something. Yeah, look what happened to many of those individuals under Stalin and others. That's your actual future under communism. And they would deserve it, too. Ben Peters Brown, I believe a gun tuber is challenging the NFA. He got arrested for auto key cards, so here's hoping he gets dragged up to SCOTUS in the coming years. Yes, but the problem is SCOTUS has been reluctant to take such cases. With Bruin, they weren't, to their credit, and I hope that they take it, but I'm not willing to put my hope in it. It can raise one on the pokies today. Have some free dollary dues. Don't buy maccas or duries. Stick to having a cuppa. Hello from below. Austin, money for your next laptop. Yeah, this one will probably last a while longer, although I am using an external screen. Gary the Snail, Georgia will probably become a blue state. Will Texas? Nope, Texas is moving in the other direction. So is Florida, and arguably now, possibly Georgia as well. I love the demographics or Destiny crowd constantly spending the last half-decade ridiculing me for telling them that Texas was not going to become a blue state simply because people of Hispanic origin moved in. The Democrats did exactly what I expected. They pivoted entirely away from economic issues, went far, far left. Now they remind people of the power-mad socialists that a lot of those individuals left behind in the first place, and they're screwing it up. And that was predictable. And I was right. And those people were wrong. It's great. RNC Research, I hate to use them as a link for our next story. Just to be clear, as a non-Republican, they post cringe all the time. But they posted cringe about somebody else this time, so I have no other link to use. Cringe. Pennsylvania Democrat John Fetterman introduces himself as John FetterWOMAN. Yes, this is real. Watch it. Fucking link in the description. Watch this for yourself and see just how insane this is. This is not a normal candidacy, number one. And number two, when you see this kind of thing, a candidate who's sort of nondescript, like Fetterman tends to be, suddenly doing the basically attention whoring thing, it's usually a sign of weakness. I think he's looking at internal polling and seeing that Mehmet Oz is creeping up because he spent weeks refusing to debate. And now he's expecting to debate Oz and expecting to lose. And he's saying, well, I'm not sure that I'm actually going to get this one. I need to do something to play up to my base. Oh, guess what? I'm John FetterWOMAN. Yeah, I support ninth month abortions and stuff like that. He really loves lesbians maybe or something. The fact is that this particular kind of quip can only be taken as cringe by the average person. And it's not the sort of thing that you do if you expect to handily win. If you're comfortably ahead, you never change what you're doing because clearly it's working now, doesn't it? This is why when Katie Hobbs is like, maybe I'll second guessing debating against Carrie Lake, there's a reason for that. Meanwhile, DeSantis says, no, fuck you. I'm the standing governor. I've got a job to do. Bye. He's doing that to Christ right now, refusing to debate. Number one, he's got an excuse. Number two, it's because he knows he'll win. He's basically assured. Greg Abbott's not meeting Beto on stage. He doesn't have to. Clearly, what he's doing is working, which is his fucking job. Fetterman, meanwhile, in this non-incumbent race, is desperate. Mehmet Oz, by the way, for a while was desperate too. He was going dark Oz mode for a second there, being very cringe as well, and doing the mean tweet thing. And it didn't go over so well, so he's throttled that back in the last week or so. Now if it's Fetterman's turn to be cringe. It's hilarious. And the dude's got something, I think, physically wrong with him more than just having had a stroke. Just to be clear, I think that he's genuinely not quite all there at this point. Eli Ann Iceland, I just had a follow-up after having cancer last year. All clear. Well, congratulations. After being really sick, I got into a bit of spiritual stuff, and I find your takes really interesting. Clank. Yes, a clank to you. Congratulations for beating cancer. Excellent. This is a no black pill zone. We've got a white pill story here. Dr. Zeodin, John FetterWOMAN cringe reminds me of the guy who said we're going to North Dakota and South Dakota, East, West Dakota. Ha ha ha. Who was it who said that? Was it Dan Quayle? Are you showing your age? Was it W? I need to know who said that. I'm gonna need a fucking clip on that one because I'll die laughing. Travis Tolbert, sketch therapy, blood for the blood god, Semper Fi. Yeah, John Fetterman needs infusions of infant blood, I guess, to get his mind working again. That was Howard Dean. I remember his angry rant there. I didn't know that he thought that there was an East and West Dakota. I know he started mentioning a bunch of states. By the way, to those not aware, and I was around at the time, and it was very meme-worthy and very funny, 2000 election, Howard Dean is actually one of the front runners. He's considered one of the top contenders at the time for the Democratic nomination for the presidential election. And he was doing a good job. He was rising in the polls. He was in the double digits. He was definitely viable. And then he had a breakdown on stage. To all you non-Vermonters out there who don't realize how fucking funny this is, and he's not originally a Vermonter. I think he was a New Yorker originally, but you know, he practiced medicine, got rich, and then decided to buy a ski lodge, basically. Bernie Sanders from Brooklyn is basically the same. In fact, most Vermont politicians tend to be the same. Phil Scott, we have to apologize for. He's a homegrown stupid head as opposed to a New York stupid head who simply migrated into the state. Anyway, Howard Dean thought it was a good idea to have a real red-faced rant, which is what it was labeled. Yes, it was 2004. Sorry, not 2000. My apologies. And he torpedoed his own presidential career in this manner. He got up on stage and he started rambling and raving and getting louder and louder, talking about how they were going to take back all the states and then the White House. And then he tried to do a yeehaw, and it didn't go over well. Not from a person like Howard Dean. Nobody took it seriously. Everybody thought it was funny. I think even Mad Magazine had a panning of that, a satire. My second nephew, thanks for the morning show. The creation of your live streams are a good decision, and I look forward to them. Clank. Yeah, look up Howard Dean Scream sometime, and you'll see what I'm talking about. Anyway, I'm going to deviate from politics and news for a moment because we have something else that I wanted to talk about. I like Chris Stuckman. He's a movie and game reviewer on YouTube, mostly cinema, and he's into Star Wars and Lord of the Rings and all the other major franchises. He's sort of like a Funko Pop Game Boy, if that makes any sense, but he's really good at commentary. I love his commentary about the Ewok adventure and the Caravan of Courage, and it's just funny. Just subscribe to his channel and watch him. He is interesting. But he decided to review the first couple episodes of Amazon's Rings of Power. This is the Lord of the Rings ripoff that they're passing off as though it has anything whatsoever to fucking do with Middle-earth. They've got Galadriel in combat wearing full armor. They've got some non-canonical switches in the race of certain characters and individuals. Sauron, I don't even know it. It looks basically like a anorexic Voldemort, I suppose. And here's the thing. When he's reviewing this, you can see the dead look in his eyes. He's not saying it out loud, but his eyes say it all. He doesn't really, in my opinion, like the Rings of Power. But he's probably not allowed to say that so openly because he has sponsorships, number one. And number two, because he's not trying to alienate anyone. I pointed that out basically in a response in the comments there. So definitely take a look at that because it's funny. He repeats 5 or 6 times, hey, I'm not sold on the series. Just to be clear, I didn't see anything that really popped for me. But, and here's a laundry list of cope reasons why I'm going to still watch it. And it's not that bad. There was one point at which he was like, there are things that are far shittier or something like that. I'm thinking, what a non-endorsement of it. He has to go to great lengths because, you know, some people in his audience are probably woke to appease them by saying he doesn't see any problem with the fact that they've completely and totally thrown out all of Tolkien's canon in favor of making something that's effectively eye candy. For some reason, he praises the CGI, even though it is more primitive than what Jackson was doing. And I'm thinking to myself, for the multi-billion-dollar budget, yes, that's billion with a B, that they're creating this series with, just for a season. They could have hired fucking Peter Jackson, and they could have easily made something far better than this. They could have taken a couple of zeros off of it. And they could have made a series with that small independent film company that did Finding Gollum and a half a dozen others at this point, And they could have fucking hired them and just given them CGI capabilities, and they would have whipped up something that was faster. They would have whipped up something that was better. Here's the big bitch that people are actually having about it. I hate it when people are coping and covering for how bad the series is. And I'm not even going to bother watching a single minute of it. I already know that it would be shit, and I'll tell you why. The cope from Amazon and from the simps for the series is all about sociopolitics. Well, people are just afraid that it's woke. Oh, well, it sucks because it's woke. But that's not most of what people are complaining about. If you actually look at the honest reviews by people who are watching it, it's just boring. It's slow-paced, it's non-canonical, and it's boring. It doesn't matter if the acting is good. Hell, it's probably pretty great with that kind of budget. Acting's probably good. CGI is, maybe not as good as previous installations that are actually Lord of the Rings, but it's decent. It's workable, maybe not up to par considering how much they spent on it, but who gives a fuck? I'm sure there's some great battle scenes and things like that. But if it's boring and it doesn't appeal to the core fan base that made Lord of the Rings popular in the first place, what the fuck is the point? He's big in comparison to the Lord of the Rings trilogy with Jackson and saying, well, people are just comparing it to this flawless trilogy, and so there's really the problem. Why don't we compare it to the Hobbit trilogy? Nobody thinks that was flawless, me least of all, and I actually fucking liked it quite a bit. First one especially, I'd give it an 8 out of 10. Second and third installations a little bit lower than that. But it's a serviceable trilogy. It just needed to be parsed down or changed around a little bit. Peter Jackson mysteriously turning it into a trilogy for absolutely no reason. You could have made it in 2 decent length movies and it would have been fine. Why not compare it to that gem? Okay, this is a good trilogy. It's not Lord of the Rings. It's not Fellowship of the Ring. Frodo's not there. It still holds up better as far as the canon goes, as far as the acting goes, as far as fucking everything goes than what Amazon has produced. And yet their budget is 10 times higher. This is the problem for this series that they're creating. If you don't have the canon, so you're not playing up to the Tolkien nerds, you've injected wokeness, alienating people who are sociopolitically inclined to be so, and it's fucking boring, you don't really have much now, do you? I love the fact that this video review is more valuable for what he doesn't say than what he does. It's more valuable for his gestures and the way that he looks at the fucking camera than for basically anything that he's saying throughout the entire thing. Again, I like Chris Stuckman. I have no problem with him. Somebody will probably be telling him at some point, they'll DM him and say, well, this other YouTuber's bitching about you and saying that you're a cocksucker or something like that to try to start problems. I like the dude. I love his reviews. I've watched the Ewok reviews more often than I've watched the Ewok movies, actually, because I find his sense of humor hilarious. But no, it's a no for me on watching the Amazon fake Lord of the Rings. And I don't even have a problem with Amazon. Again, I'm unbiased with regards to this. I work with Amazon with POD, and I have no problem with the company in general. But they've really flubbed it. I'm not going to watch that shit. It's like, why don't you make a Ghostbusters series or something? It'd probably be better off. I don't know. I had to get that off my chest. The Grizzly, even though it's a 50-50, what happens if the Dems lose the Senate? What kind of mental spiral do we see from the left? Do you think we see another 2020 peaceful Wendy's burning? Yeah, I think they'll riot. Dr. Zeodin, Howard Dean. Yes, we covered Howard Dean's scream. Tom Pollen, we're going to take back the White House. Yeah, I remember that. It's plain as day. Oh, boy, it was great. Quatrina VR, they asked Jackson, but he wanted the script first. Oh, yeah, well, he made a good decision by deciding to do that, I suppose. He should have said, no, let me rewrite the whole fucking script. I'll make you a series. Hell, give me $100 million. You don't need these billions or anything like that. Considering the length of the fucking 2 trilogies that he made, that would encompass several goddamn seasons of a series of these episodic lengths for a fraction of the budget. And they were better in every way, and they were reasonably canonical. Hell, even injecting Tariel into the 2nd and 3rd fucking Hobbit movies just to have the strong, empowered female character in what really is a sausage fest goddamn novel, even that makes more sense than what they did here. It just doesn't make any fucking sense. Where's your core audience? Left-wingers that don't mind that a male individual was the one that invented the Lord of the Rings in the first place? Victoria Winter, hi Styx, I am interested in herbal medicine. Do you have a book on the subject or any suggestions? I do actually, if you go to the Tarl Warwick Books blog, I can't remember whether I put it in the herbal section or the My Work section. I do have a compilation on folk medicine. Yes. The Grizzly. They tried to hire Jackson. When he asked for the script, they ghosted Jackson. Also, Warner Brothers apparently still holds the rights. So if they can't call Hobbits or use any Lord of the Rings stuff outside some appendix, watch Nerdrotic. He does a breakdown. Oh, okay, that explains why it sucks so badly. Again, watch the fucking review. All you need to do, don't listen to him. You can mute him if you want to. Look at the look in his eyes. It tells a whole different story from his coping statements, which, I mean, he might have been fucking compelled to make them. He's got actual sponsorships and shit because he's a big creator. He might not have been allowed to say exactly what he meant. There was a lot of cope there. Well, I know I've seen far bigger pieces of shit than the Lord of the Rings that Amazon is making. Oh, boy. Next news story. Goodbye, globalization. As American politicians turn against economic openness, history suggests the consequences could be dire. This is from Reason. The problem is this entire article is gaslighting. They're arguing that globalization, a la eat the bugs, live in the pod, nation states should have less autonomy, people should certainly not have populism, is necessary for the world to keep up trade lines. People were trading with one another long before there were stringent centralized systems involved with governing that trade. Having equal weights and measures and defending trade lines against pirates and shit like that is one thing. That does not require the regulatory trade deals that exist in the world today. Yes, we should say goodbye to globalization and hello to a global economy. A free economy, free markets, free trade, free exchange of ideas without censorship on places like the internet, which are vitally important to innovation. That's what we need. We don't need the old wave of globalization that's built in the end of the Cold War, basically. The idea that nations need to centrally allocate all resources and heavily tax people and regulate everything that's going on it starts wars. It's not really helpful. So this entire article, again, link in the description archive, of course, you can read through it and just know that everything that's said there basically is a bunch of fucking gaslighting. I just wanted to cover that in brief. It was important to me. I like to point out gaslighting when I see it. Ozzy's Robots. I'm preserving culture without woke. Encourage clankers to my channel. My museum will offer a better experience than all these crap movies and streaming shows for far cheaper. P.S. When will leftoids get tired of their cities burning? Well, it's not their cities. The leftoids that are doing the burning live out in the suburbs or in the gated communities. They go to the ghetto in the middle of the night in large groups in order to torch the Wendy's in the ghetto because they know there will be no repercussions for doing so. They love to burn black-owned businesses, I've noticed. And Antifa is a sausage fest of very lily-white people. But keep in mind, they're fighting for progress or whatever. Next news story. Yeah, BBC covering this earlier. Modern slavery shoots up by 10 million in 5 years. Now, there is a lie by structure in this article. You'd think if you read the first half of this article or thereabouts, and that's where 99% of people have already cut off, modern slavery is shooting up because of political discourse and war mainly, which is true. You know, you have a war in Ukraine right now, and so females and children, they flee, and sometimes they get taken up into the sex trade or something like that, which is very unfortunate. A significant proportion, though, of all of those slaves were created by one thing, and one thing only: economic damage done by lockdownerism. And it's a problem for the third and the first world as well. When you have incapacitated people's incomes and driven businesses under, when you have low labor force participation, wages lagging far behind inflation, when you have crippled the economy, productivity, and trade, people fall through the cracks. And some of these people end up on drugs and end up walking the streets. And some of these people end up effectively selling themselves into servitude. And some of these people fall prey to violent street gangs. And some of these people are abducted and fucking pimped out until they're finally used up and then they get killed. And it's very unfortunate, and it was something that was foreseen. We saw reports from the UN itself more than a year ago about world hunger, about food shortages being exacerbated by the same economic situation. Now, all of a sudden, slavery is a big issue. All of a sudden, it never was an issue before. Over the last couple of years, there was no uptick in it. It took you this long to realize it, that there was more human trafficking going on because you crippled the economy. Yeah, when you get 10 million extra people out of work, sometimes a few of those people probably end up on crack. And some of those crackheads end up selling their bodies on the streets. Yeah, when you cripple economies, more people end up, a family has a child. They're in the third world where it's not a problem culturally. Nobody's going to say anything. So they say, well, we can't take care of our fucking 15-year-old right now, but we can marry them off. Yeah, that dude down the street, he's got his own iPhone, so he must be loaded. Fucking, I guess, give us a dowry so we can eat finally. We'd rather not cannibalize our child. So, you do the eating and we'll take the money. Alex Colon, Sticks, have you read the Populist Delusion by Nima Parvini, aka Academic Agent on YouTube, AA? If not, I think you and the Clankers should take a look. He has a lot of good insights on political events. I'll check that out. Michael Cricklow, will you buy shares of Rumble when they go public? Possibly. I tend not to fuck around with stocks and things like that, but yeah, I think it would be a disclaimer. This is not official investment advice, but yeah, I think in my own personal anecdotal opinion, it'd probably be a sound investment. Yeah, by the way, keep in mind that Hillary Clinton helped increase slavery in the world too. There are slave markets in Libya, and they weren't there under Gaddafi. How many hundreds of thousands of people have already been run through those markets? Apparently, you can go there with a couple $100 and walk away owning another fucking human being. And they don't care who you are as long as you're willing to pay. Now, let's check over on Pixel Planet. No, the Armenians are not getting stomped. They're still expanding. It's just, you got to realize that light blue blob on the other side used to be Azerbaijan. It had been clanked on for a while, and now the Armenians are invading. But yeah, you can take that link. If you're watching on YouTube, it's at the top of chat, and on Rumble, it's also in the description as well on both platforms. We are still clearing out what little is left of Turkey over on Pixel Planet in defense of our Greek allies. They are doing a half-assed counterattack right now on some of the islands. The real attacking comes later on in the day, so I'll be covering that probably. We're going to wipe them out of existence and then move south and restore the Eastern Roman Empire, I suppose. Meanwhile, we're propping up the Georgians and Armenians who have both invaded as well. They have the blessing to do that. The blessing of Clankdom. Meanwhile, the Greeks have overrun Albania. We didn't do that, by the way, to be clear to any Albanians that are watching. And anyone from Turkey that's watching, keep in mind, it's a fucking game online, so don't get too spicy about it. They invaded their neighbor. What can I say? We had to take action. It's important. The internet is serious business. Next story. Border sheriffs slam D.C. mayor and officials for declaring emergency over migrant buses. They have seen nothing. Yes, indeed. About 10,000 migrants from Texas and Arizona since April have been sent to Washington, D.C. alone. They're also sporadically doing this to New York City and to Chicago now. I think that they should double down, and I think that they should do it much, much more. I think that they should massively increase the number of buses that are going. It should be possible to do that. I'm sure that they have it in their budget. They could probably raise funds from people in Texas and Arizona as well as elsewhere to do this. Triple the number of buses, quadruple it, overrun DC and Chicago and New York City with people who are illegally in the country. They can't be processed or anything down in Texas and Arizona. There's no more room. Border facilities are full up. The people down there, the Border Patrol, can't even guard the border. There's too much processing and paperwork to do. They're stretched too thinly. And this is after their budget and their manpower was increased by Trump, just to be clear about how dire the situation is. They were considerably beefed up, and the problem is still there. They should increase it massively. Massively. And here's why. These people are probably the greatest campaign ad for having border security that you could possibly wish for. Here you've got Mayor Bowsy, you've got Hochul, you've got these others complaining, Lori Lightfoot now, most recently, complaining about the busing and saying that it's not Christian, it's not fair, we can't take care of these people. But none of them have ever visited the border. Neither, too, by the way, has the border czar, Kamala Harris. And I guess we're getting new inflation numbers. Inflation coming in at 8.3%, says Fatal Money. I will fact check that. But yeah, they're still doing the NIMBY liberal fucking thing. It's because they want people to be diverse, but they don't want the diversity in their neighborhoods. I think that they should force the politicians to take some of these people. Kyle Miller, Biden dipping into the strategic oil reserves to keep gas prices low before midterms should be an impeachable offense. He may actually get impeached for it. Princess, Tueka destroy art. I think you mean the Turks. Yes, they have been griefing our artwork after we overran their country, but we did that to defend the Greeks and then ourselves, and they'll have to deal with it. Their country will disappear. They've lost. Drennan, make Rome great again. Clank. Junkie96, do you read for fun or just work? I read for fun. Princess, Ottomans destroy art, I mean. YouTube is censoring me. Oh, you can't say Turk or Turkish in Super Chat? Why? It's a fucking country. It's literally the label of the people that live there. Get your act together, YouTube. But yeah, you can keep pixeling that in to all of the people here. I'll just a second here. So we got 4,500 people watching, by the way. Let me check inflation. Let's see. Do we have a news story? Hey, that's fine. I'm just seeing news ahead of the inflation report. It's ironic that I go live right at the time that the inflation numbers are coming in. And now it's trying to autoplay fucking King Charles rambling about his dead mom. Wall Street futures rose Tuesday ahead of data traders hope will show that surging U.S. inflation eased in August, reducing pressure for more interest rate hikes. Well, if it's still 8.3%, that's not exactly low now. It's lower than it was in July, so you got 3 months in a row of it lowering, but it's still pacing ahead of inflation. And again, here's the problem. That new number inevitably has to fall somewhat. Otherwise, it means catastrophic damage because it's already judged against the last year's numbers. By this point last year, we were already inflating rapidly. So if the number continued to rise, it's taking a number that was already well above historical norms and then compounding on top of it. So it was inevitable that inflation had to level off at some point unless we're literally hyperinflating. Not a huge surprise. It's better than the alternative, but it doesn't mean that we're anything but linear. It doesn't mean the Fed won't continue to act. And it doesn't mean that the new unemployment report will be very good either. I have a suspicion that it won't be. Not a banned account. It's her turn now. Harris for president 2023? Yeah, not going to happen. I don't think the Democrats want Kamala Harris. The Agal faces. Warmonger Hexenhammer has become their worst enemy. A neocon neolib president of Clankton peacefully intervening in foreign conflicts. Yeah, they obviously don't know the backstory about me and ICQ chat if they think that I'll actually give up and that I don't have the ability to hold my breath longer than they do. That goes for the people running Pixel Planet as well as the any group that we happen to deem an enemy. Salty Apostle, have you heard of MAGA communism? Jackson Hinkle was discussing it. Apparently some commies are looking to join forces against Biden and green globalism. Yeah, that's going to be a hard no for me. Speaking of green groups slam Dems natural gas pipeline side deal as a betrayal. Democrats permitting reform deal is an atrocity. The conservation director of Wild Virginia tells Fox Business. Yes, indeed. There's some pipeline green lighting that's being inserted with regards to budget things right now. Manchin, I'll just read this. Senator Joe Manchin, Democrat, West Virginia, agreed to support the Inflation Reduction Act, the $739 billion climate and tax package, in exchange for Democratic leadership support of permitting reform deal that would make it easier to approve energy projects, including fossil fuel pipelines. Now, this makes sense. It's called negotiation. It would help the economy. Joe Manchin's doing the right thing, although really you should have that permitting made easier and not have the Inflation Production Act on the side, but at least one thing's been inserted into it that makes sense. So naturally, all of the Green New Deal Dems are crazy, filled with hate and anger over this. Oh my God, you can't do this. You sound like a Republican. Well, I mean, basically Manchin, for some intents and purposes, he represents West Virginia, and people there don't want to pay so much for gas. It's as simple as that. Heisman happy clank. We got Cenk Uyghur's sweaty gunt over on Rumble. Don't listen to the Pixel Planet haters. They are Turkish assets trying to overthrow our clankmocracy. I mean, I can understand why some people just aren't into such things. But, you know, I happen to be, and this is my channel. I am dictator here. I don't have to listen to an oligarchic group or anything like that. Sure, there is a council of wise men, and I do believe in listening to the democratic masses, but hell, at the end of the day, I'm basically a benevolent dictator here. So I'm going to continue crushing the Ottoman Empire, just for shits and giggles, because it's fun. And at this point, it seems to be mimetic in nature. You can also continue plowing south across some of the, I think the Turks had already taken over Syria and Lebanon anyway, so we might as well clear them out there. There was some suggestion earlier. I saw this and thought it was hilarious. Several of the Turkish chatters there were suggesting that if we left them alone, they would move south. They would reestablish Turkey outside of Turkey or something. I smell shenanigans. I'm questioning whether that would be adhered to long term. So we're just going to continue our campaign of insanity. We're making good progress, that's for sure. There's not a whole lot of Turkey that's actually left, to tell the truth. Most of it's been surrounded by the Armenians and Georgians at this point. But keep in mind, they will raid later. They will start griefing artwork. Jonathan L. I think the American Republic is stronger than many people that are not America think it is. What paradigm is America in? Because the American Revolution has never stopped. I disagree with that last part, but I agree with the former premise. Yes, the United States is not as weak as some people claim. Bujalisish 3, Stuckman's reviews are vacuous trash. Oh, watch his Ewok Adventure one. I thought it was funny. And now we got our last point here, and it sounds like the baby's chuffing up there, although I gave her extra formula, so we'll see what happens. Mike Davis is pointing this out. The Presidential Records Act is very clear, as Trump's legal team points out. The presidential records of a former president shall be available to such former president or the former president's designated representative. There you go. In a nutshell, it's as plain as day in a few short sentences. The fact is this. The FBI persecution of Donald Trump is bullshit. They started out by getting a warrant by proclaiming the Espionage Act applied, so classified intel was mishandled, it was sold or something like that. It was seen with impropriety by people who aren't supposed to access it. They have pivoted entirely to declaring this to be National Archives related. And they're invoking the Presidential Records Act, despite the fact that it quite clearly and explicitly states that a former president or vice president has access to the paperwork they feel is necessary for them to have access to. It says nothing about repatriation. If anything, the Donald Trump people may very well have made copies of these things, in which case there's nothing to be done. Those wouldn't be pertinent to the National Archives. And we're seeing this over and over again where they keep pivoting. They pivoted again today. I talked about this morning. Under normal circumstances, when the DOJ says, oh, one of the Trump potential appointees for special master is acceptable to us. That's Deary, Raymond Deary. He's a Reagan appointee, one of the two people Trump put forward as a possible special master. A lot of people, in fact, the majority, I think, in response to my video, were saying, well, there's shenanigans afoot. Clearly, the DOJ has dirt on him or something. They've compromised Deary. Under most circumstances, I would agree with you. Under this circumstance, I think it has to do with timing. The DOJ realizes that if it plays hardball with Trump on the special master, it's going to take a long time for the court to appoint one. And there'll be appeals and motions and counter motions, and it'll drag out and drag out. It punts it way back past the mid-October timeline, potentially, that the DOJ wants for the material to be reviewed. In order to expedite the process, they threw up their hands, took a step back and said, okay, Trump, you can have your special master. Let's snap to it. Let's get this done quick. I think that's what's happening. I do not think that this is shenanigans with regards to the special master. I think that they're more willing to jettison some of the good stuff, with Deary being one of Trump's people that he put forward. I think that they're more willing to jettison that just to get it expedited. I think in part because they realize they don't have a case. They want to get it over with so they can go back to rambling about J6 or something. Very interesting. And to be clear, I don't think that they have a legal case against Donald Trump. Ryan McDonald, USA. Dr. Oz pushed back from conservatives yesterday for endorsing same-sex marriage. Will this earn him votes from independents or lose votes from Republicans? That's a dead issue at this point, and even many Republicans don't care to continue fighting it. I think that helps him with independent voters and possibly people who realize Fetterman's completely nutso, but they tend to lean left. Could help him with left-leaning independents, oddly enough. And to be clear, I endorse same-sex marriage. I don't give a shit. It's a state contract. Nobody's invading your church and forcing you to conduct gay marriage ceremonies. Darius Harvey, $49.99. Thank you very much, but you didn't send a comment. Yeah. Michael J. Debate Nick Fuentes on 911 sticks. We've already had a couple of debates. We debated, first it was religion, I think, and then I think we debated Trump or populism or something along those lines. I can't remember the exact subject of the second debate. In the first one, it was paganism versus Christianity. He's Catholic, and I'm pagan. So, it was a good time. But now he thinks that I'm the goth Sean Hannity, and I'm just thinking to myself, I wish I had Sean Hannity's budget. I think Fuentes at this point would just shit it up, though, and it'd basically be like listening to a shit post just to get attention. So I think I'll pass on that one. So yeah, Trump made his next filing, and it's a doozy because it basically torpedoes the DOJ's claim with regards to National Archives records. That means, are they going to default back to the claim about the Espionage Act that doesn't really apply in the situation under the same auspices? It's going to be very, very interesting to see. Start a conflict in Pixel Planet. Clank in the chat and then stir up conflicts. They get very emotional in there. I'm not joining Gilded. I don't have the ability to chat there. I have to get other people to post my proclamations there. We're too busy pixeling. All I wanted to do was add Styx Hex and Hammer 666 near spawn. That was several years ago, I think, at this point. And it kept getting griefed, so I called in clankers, and the rest is history. We ended up taking over half of sub-Saharan Africa or some insane thing. The Happy Plague Doctor, but you have to bake the cake, Styx. Yeah, I'm watching Turkey disappear in real time. There are only a few chunks left that aren't being claimed by the Armenians or Georgians right now. It's less than half of the remnant actually still stands inside what will be Eastern Roman Empire borders. And now we take the Levant region by storm, hoping to cause some emetic things to happen. We'll see. Check the news over the next week, I guess, in places like Syria and Israel. We'll see if we can cook up some more magic, since we seem to have perturbed a real-life conflict between the Greeks and the Turks, as well as the Azerbaijani and Armenians. So we'll see what we can do down in that region. I'm a little bit stuffed up today, by the way, you may have noticed. I know it's autumn. It's not spring. There's no pollen. What the fuck? Logan Davis, you can tell a lot about a person by the way they play Pixel Planet. Yeah, I was very orderly and minding my own business. All I wanted to do was have a little logo next to spawn, and it spiraled out of control because we kept getting griefed. And then the Fibonacci's were trying to invade, so we had to shove their shit in. They seem to have given up, I think. There's not a whole lot going on in anywhere else in Africa at this point other than in Clankdom land. We control Nigeria, Ghana, Togo, Benin, the Ivory Coast, Liberia, Sierra Leone, Burkina Faso, most of Mali, Gabon, parts of Congo, and the Central African Republic. I think we've extended down into parts of what's now Angola, Mauritania, some of these other nations. Anyway, we control a gigantic chunk of Africa is what I'm telling you. But we had to get involved on behalf of our allies in Greece. By the way, to whoever's pixeling in yellow and red, the clank colors in that area, if you could please stop, actually, I would appreciate that. I appreciate the sentiment, but we're not trying to take over Turkey. We were liberating it. Now we're going to form the Eastern Roman Empire, I suppose. It'd be more fruitful to just leave it blue for now. We'll decide on a final color scheme in the future, but first we have to decimate the Ottomans to the point where they never come back. And I mean, even with bots, they can't beat us. So the writing at some point, it's got to be on the wall for these people. Steve Watt, I don't use Pixel Planet, but I like you and your lovely cat. Yeah, that cat has decided to, as you can see, turn me into one of them. Most of the shirts that I have don't really absorb cat hair, which is good. This one, unfortunately, does. So, I mean, maybe that's why I'm hoarse. Cat dander. Yeah, I just can't get rid of it. It's a big problem. 86ED, Pixel Planet Deus Volt. Yeah, no, this is going to be a pagan empire, but we'll leave the crosses and stuff because, of course, Greece is part of that now broader nation. But to be clear, Greece does not run all of Turkey. We have kicked the Ottomans out of Turkey. That doesn't mean that clankers are not mainly involved with that adventure. Now we're going into the Middle East. The Greeks probably won't even join in. They have no interest in it. We'll figure something out. We'll be partitioning some land or doing something. I like how Lathine, the Ukrainian over there, is trying to claim that we're botting. No, we are actually not, and I never claimed that anyone should bot. In fact, I have banned clankers from using them, although I did threaten to deploy them if the mods did nothing about the Ottomans doing so. I figure what's good for the gander is good for the goose in that case. Leandro Lima, did you hear about the Logic Reason crowdsource investigation site TruthScore? No, I haven't. Spike 11117. Inflation came in hot at 8.3%. Yeah, so a very slight decline from the last month, which was in turn a slight decline. Again, though, when we're seeing declines in inflation at this point, you're judging the inflated number against an already inflated number. It's compounded year over year. This is how it's calculated. And that's just the core inflation anyway. Food prices are still up by double digits year over year. That's catastrophic. That's not a strong economy. But they'll put it out as though it's strong, and they'll say, well, inflation is easing. Everything's fine now. Seeing weird shit in chat. Yeah, people are, I don't know. I guess the Romanians are upset at us, maybe, or at least that user is. We didn't involve ourselves with Romania. I don't know. We've decided to remain neutral to the north of the Bulgarian region just because they've got so many alliances. It's like pre-World War I Europe, where everyone's allied with each other to the point where if anything happens, everyone goes to war at once. And we're just not interested in participating there. Although, again, the Ottomans did try to false flag Greece in multiple countries the other day. They did it to the Georgians. They did it to the Italians. They did it further north in Europe. Didn't have the effect that they wanted, though. They were getting criticized by most of chat. E100 Omega 123. I've been wearing Hawaiian shirts since I was 16 because they're fun and comfy. It sucks they've been turned into a political symbol. No, they haven't. The whole Boogaloo thing is mostly bullshit anyway. Anyway, I'm going to go offline, I think, here, despite having 5,500 people watching live and having a good time on Pixel Planet because I hear some chuffing going on. Also, got to go out later and get pumpkins and gourds and shit for decoration. A good time will be had by all, so expect the background to change a little bit as well. That's about all. Peace out.